Some pretty radical words. But when they're flying helicopters around your house, poisoning your babies, sometimes you kind of feel like it's time to defend yourselves, to defend your family, to defend the soil, to defend the water, to defend the air. And with that, our next speaker, Karen Coulter.
Hi, I'm Karen Coulter, Director of Blue Mountains Biodiversity Project. And in fact, I have been poisoned and I have had helicopters flying around my place. I'm coming to you from the forest of Eastern Oregon, which are 63% of Oregon's forests. Out where I am, we're working with local communities to transition the legacy of unsustainable logging of our public lands toward ecologically sound restoration. It can be a stressful process, but it's essential value change to prioritize protection of biodiversity and ecological integrity. Otherwise, hostile polarization within communities and ecological degradation would continue until nothing's left. Often our biggest obstacle is the Forest Service. The agency is driven by unrealistic congressional timber sale targets and perverse financial incentives that favor logging at a net financial loss over sustainable ecosystems and communities. In Western Oregon, you have the threat of outdated clear-cutting of last old-growth habitat, including the Bureau of Land Management's Whopper Plan. In Eastern Oregon, we're still fighting archaic Forest Service timber sales. In one case, they would cut thousands of acres of last remaining high-elevation fir and lynx habitat. In another timber sale, thousands of acres of northern spotted owl habitat would be logged, including precious old-growth white pine, sugar pine, and rare Shasta red fir, with no size limit. We need to recognize that these timber sale plans are driven by the structure of corporate capitalism itself, which intrinsically exploits nature and impoverishes communities in order to enrich a wealthy minority of corporate executives. We can no longer ignore the threats posed by our system of neo-colonial imperialism being imposed on the world and on ourselves. Climate change is now threatening to overwhelm natural ecosystems, further impoverishing ranchers and farmers, creating millions of refugees, causing species like the polar bear to go extinct, and creating severe social disruption of our water supplies and food. We need to take responsibility for protecting the forest for carbon sequestration and wildlife. We need to dismantle the system of corporate exploitation of ecosystems and communities. We must start reclaiming the commons, the forests, the land, the water, the air we breathe, our diverse cultural identities, our right to community, non-commercialized space. It is our responsibility to turn the world right backside up, so that we decide what corporations can and can't
knowing
do,
about it now and being ready for it is kind of our hope to get people understanding
At the founding of this country, corporations were restricted to being servants for the public welfare. Yet now corporations are destroying the forest past the point of reason. Forests are the lungs of the earth, and their protection is vital. Yet privatization of public lands and forests by timber corporations and the corporate takeover of our government itself has now got us dancing to the distracting tune of carbon trading. Carbon offsets would lead to no real reduction in carbon dioxide emissions, the largest contributor to global warming. Only serious cutbacks in wasteful consumption and pollution will have the desired effects. Likewise, there are now industry moves on the international level to institutionalize so-called biodiversity offsets so that corporations can go ahead and destroy the last wild biodiversity in one place with the shallow promise of restoring some other kind of biodiversity somewhere else. If this trend continues, there will be no wildlands, no cultural or biodiversity left. We will all be microchipped, traceable, expendable cogs in the machine. It is fascism that is festering here and in the rest of the world, with the end of natural social relations and the end of wildlife chained to each other. We must demand what we really need, not genetic engineering, not just labeling. No genetic engineering, not just labeling. No corporate rule, not just a kinder, gentler global corporatization administration. No more clear-cutting or unsustainable logging. No human-caused extinctions. And public lands for wildlife, water, and local needs, not for transnational corporate greed. We can do it. Each of us has our role to play. We can start the change here and now. If you're not already involved in these efforts, you can find people here at this rally representing groups that may inspire you. Come to the Climate Convergence near Eugene that starts tomorrow and runs through August 4th. The website for shuttles from Portland and the list of workshops is at climateconvergence.org. Thank you for your help. The Earth needs strong advocates taking action.
Karen was mentioning that you can connect up with various forest organizations today. I want to point to these tables that flank the stage, out here on my left, out here on my right. There are tables full of free information. If you want to get hooked up with forest organizations that are working to save the environment, visit these tables before you go home today. With that, I now get to be the proud papa and introduce my own son's rock and roll band. And they are so alternative that they've decided to change their name today on the spot. They're listed in your program as Alternative Reality, but they just became Shatner. So here's Shatner in honor of William.
Wow, thank you all for coming. Look at all you lovely people. And some of you not so much. I'm just kidding. But seriously, you know who you are.
Yep. We only want to rent to people we know. We don't want to like. We don't want anybody that close.